Hello everyone. So welcome back to my channel. Basically, this is the AWS Zero to Master series, and we are focusing on the complete AWS services in this playlist. So in a past few sessions, we are discussing more about that application load balancer and listener role and target groups. In a today's session, we are going to discuss about that one of the another concept called routing algorithm and sticky session. So let us start. So routing algorithm means nothing but whenever user trying to access the load balancer, the traffic will be sent to the target group based on the listener rule. Inside the target group level, if you have a multiple target, the routing algorithm will be redirect the traffic to one of the targets. So basically this will be configured on the target group level. So let us take an example how we can configure how the routing algorithm will be working on that application load balancer. We have one of the application load balancer. In a backend, we have a target group. Inside the target group, we have three targets. That means the three EC2 instance. So basically, if the user trying to access the load balancer using the example.com, it will validate the listener rule on the application load balancer. The listener rule will send the traffic to the concerned target group level. But inside the target group level, we have a multiple targets such as three EC2 instance. So what will happen? The routing algorithm will be redirect the traffic to the one of the targets. That means the EC2 instance based on the algorithm which is configured on the target group level. So if the like another user trying to connect, basically the routing algorithm will be validate the algorithm and it will send the traffic to the another EC2 instance. And the third user trying to connect that load balancer, it will validate the same way it will forward the traffic. So we will discuss more about that. What are the algorithm available on the top load balancer and what are the difference between of those algorithm in the upcoming slide. So basically, AWS supporting the three kind of algorithm. First one is round robin, and the second one is the least outstanding request, and third one is that weighted random. This is a new one added by AWS. We will discuss one by one in the upcoming slide. So round robin means nothing but whenever like the user trying to connect that load balancer, the load balancer will send the traffic to that target group. Inside the target group level, the routing algorithm will send the traffic on the rotation basis in a sequential order. So, that means that each target will get that traffic based on the some kind of sequential order. So this is the by default method by providing by AWS. Whenever we are connecting that load balancer with the target group by default will be configured the round robin as a default method. So let us take an example to see the round robin will be work. So we have a load balancer and the load balancer is running with some kind of domain. For example, that example.com. Then a backend we have a two EC2 instance. That means the two target. So if the user one trying to access the load balancer, what will happen? The listener rule will send the traffic to the concerned target group. Inside the target group level, the routing algorithm will send the traffic to the one of the EC2 instance on the sequential order. So that means that user one will connected with one of the EC2 instance, that EC2 instance one. So in another scenario, if the second user trying to connect the same load balancer, what will happen? As I mentioned, this will be send the traffic across all the target on a rotation basis in a sequential order, right? So what will happen? If the user to connecting that load balancer, the load balancer routing algorithm will send the traffic to another EC2 instance. So that means already the EC2 one will be get the traffic. So EC2 instance two will be receive the traffic from the user two. So the another one that if the user three will trying to connect that load balancer, what will happen? Again, in the routing algorithm will be send the traffic on the instance one. That means this will be send the traffic on the rotation basis. So basically, the user three will connect to the instance one, and the user four will connect to that instance two. So that is the way the traffic will send to the across all the target in a sequential order. So when we are configuring the round robin like that routing algorithm, the we need to be know about that some kind of cross zone load balancing. If you are configuring that cross zone load balancing without cross zone load balancing, how the traffic will be splitted up, we will see it on that in the next slide. So the cross zone load balancing means nothing but we can place our EC2 instance in a multiple availability zone. Basically, the traffic will be distributed across that availability zone. So If you can see on the image, I have a two availability zones, zone A and zone B. Zone A, I have a two instance, and the zone B, I have a eight instance. So whenever I am configuring the round robin with the cross zone load balancing, what will happen? It will distribute across the instance level, all the instance level, not a availability zone level. So if you can see overall, I have a 10 instance. Each instance, I am getting the 10% of the traffic. So this is the way the cross-zone load balancing will be balanced the traffic across the instance level, not a target group on the availability zone. So if you can see on the right hand side, I haven't taken another image for without cross-zone load balancing. So when I'm just configuring the without cross-zone, like a cross-zone load balancing, like the same way, zone A I have a 2 instance and the zone B I have a 8 instance. So without cross zone load balancing, what will happen? The zone A will get the 50% of traffic and the zone B will get the 50% of traffic. So basically, zone A I have a 2 instance. So each instance will get 25% of traffic. And in the zone B, like I can get it that 6.25% of traffic. So what will happen? Basically, it will distribute the traffic across the like target group of the zone, not a like instance level. So basically, when we are configuring the round robin with the cross zone load balancing, it will distribute the traffic evenly across the target level. So this is the difference between the cross zone load balancing and without cross zone load balancing. So by default, when we are configuring that application load balancer, the cross zone load balancing will be enabled by default. If we need to be disabled, we can disable it on the target group level. So the another one of the algorithm called least outstanding request. So this will be send the traffic based on the active connection inside the target group instance. So for example, whenever the load balancer get the request from that client, the load balancer will send the traffic to the routing algorithm. Routing algorithm will validate all the active connection inside the target group level, and it will send the one of the fewest active connection inside the target group. So basically, it will ensure the equal process of all servers inside the target group. So that's all about the least outstanding. And another one is called the weighted random. So weighted random means nothing but like this is the new one added by AWS. Basically, it will send the traffic in a randomly across all the healthy targets. So this will be support that ATW feature. So ATW means automatic target weight. Basically, it will be help us to find that gray failure. So gray failure means nothing but basically AWS application load balancer will be marked as the healthy instance based on the default health path. But even though if any kind of application level failure and CPU overload or any network packet loss, still, yeah, the ALB will be marked as the healthy only in the EC2 instance level. But using the like ATW, if any kind of like application bug or any CPU workflow overload or network fault, this will be like marked as the unhealthy in the instance level. So basically, as I mentioned, to improve that app availability, like ALB has been released that ATW feature, including that anomaly detection and like weighted random algorithm. So anomaly means nothing but, as I mentioned, that it will send the HTTP and HTTP status code for each of the like EC2 instance, and it will compare with the other EC2 instance, and it will mark as the healthy or not. So basically, based on these healthy status, the traffic will send to the concerned target. So that's all about that routing algorithm in the AWS perspective. So we will see it on the console how it will be, how we can configure that routing algorithm and where we can configure that a different kind of routing algorithm. So I'll just quickly jump into the console. So basically, I'm in North Virginia region. I have one of the target groups running on the TC2, but I don't have any instance attached into the target. Since I want to let you know where we can configure that the routing algorithm. So if you need any still, I need to be demonstrate the about the routing algorithm. Just feel free to leave a comment. I'll take you up that separate session. Now today's session, I'll just showcase you where we can configure the routing algorithm. To configure the routing algorithm, just to go to the target group, to click on the target group. As I mentioned, we can configure the routing algorithm on the target group level. So there you can see that one of the option called attributes. Inside the attributes, if you can edit the attributes, Here you can see the different kind of routing algorithm. First one is that round robin. As I mentioned, this will be send the traffic equally across all the target in a random rotation basis. And second one, as I mentioned, that least outstanding request. This is the another concept provided by AWS. Based on the active connection, it will send the traffic. And third one, as I mentioned, weighted random. It will be supported that ATW feature to find the gray failure. Along with that anomaly detection also they are providing, it will validate the HTTPS and HTTP code. So basically, this is the way we can configure the routing algorithm, and on the target group level, based on the routing algorithm, it will send the traffic to the concerned target group. And another one of the point, as I mentioned, the cross-zone load balancing. Basically, by default, application load balancer will be configured with the cross-zone load balancing. If we need to be disabled or enable, we can do it on the target group level. But basically, the like load balancer attribute will be having a like configuration of that cross-zone load balancing itself. So that's all about that. Routing algorithm. As I mentioned, if you still need to like demonstrate the routing algorithm on the portal level, just feel free to leave a comment. I'll take you the demo session with the routing algorithm. So back to the console. So before start the sticky session, we will discuss about that some kind of basics traffic flow habit will be working on the AWS load balancer. Generally, the traffic will be routed to that concerned target group based on the routing algorithm. For example, we have application load balancer. In the backend, we have a two targets inside the target group level. If the user one trying to connect the load balancer, it will send the traffic to the routing algorithm. It will send the redirect the traffic based on the routing algorithm to the one of the EC2 instance. But for some kind of scenario, we need to be bind the user session to the particular EC2 instance. For example, if whenever the user trying to connect that load balancer, the load balancer should be send the traffic to the same instance inside the target group level, so that user can get the accessibility of that application in all time. So that is where the like a sticky session will be help us to bind the session with the consent target. So the same way, if the user two trying to connect the load balancer, it will send the traffic to that one of the EC2 instance. Again, if the user trying to connect, it will send the traffic to the same EC2 instance. So this is called the sticky session. We will discuss more about that how we can bind the sticky session. What are the option available on that sticky session in the upcoming slide. So basically the use cases, as I mentioned, we can bind the session into the specific target group for a certain time, for not a long time, only certain time period we can bind the session. This is known as the session affinity. We can call it the session affinity. Basically, the session affinity will be ensure that traffic will be sent to the a specific target. So as I mentioned, this will be configured at the target group level. So another one more point we need to be noticed when we are enabling the sticky session, the cross zone load balancing should be enabled. If it is the disabled, it will not work. So that's all about the basics of that sticky session use cases. So basically, application load balancer supporting the two kind of sticky session. First one is that load balancer generated cookie, and the second one is that application based cookies. So now we will discuss about that each of that cookies. What are the options available on that? So let us discuss one by one. So let us take an first one is that load balancer generated cookies. So this is the default one managing by AWS. So what will happen whenever we are enabling the load balancer generated cookies, by default AWS will be taken care. So we can configure that the session duration from 0 second to 7 days. So this will depend on our requirement. And when we are enabling that cookie, those cookies will be encrypted by default by AWS based on the routing key, and we can't decrypt or edit or anything on that cookies level. As I mentioned, this will be managed by AWS. Only we can configure with the duration. So, and another point, the cookies default name will be like AWS ALB. This will be configured by default. We can't change it anything on that. So another one more point, if any of the user already binded with that particular target, in case if the target not exist on the target group for some reason, again if the user trying to connect the target group, what will happen? Like it will send the traffic to the another target inside the target group, and it will bind the session to the new target. So we will discuss more about that the load balancer generated cookies in a, like for example one example. So we have a one of the load balancer. Inside the target group level, we have a two EC2 insert. If the user trying to access the load balancer with the DNS, what will happen? It will send the traffic to routing like a routing algorithm, and based on the routing algorithm, first time it will send the traffic to one of the EC2 insert. So the same user again, if the user trying to connect the load balancer, if the load balancer generated cookies has been enabled, what will happen? Again, it will send the traffic along with that cookies name that is called the AWS ALB. So basically, the load balancer will send the traffic to that target group. Inside the target group level, the session affinity will be validate the test session based on the cookies. If the cookies has been received along with the AWS ALB, it will send the traffic to the same target group. So that is the way that the load balancer generated cookies will be bind the session to concern EC2 instance. So that's all about that load balancer generated cookies. So before looking to that AWS console, we will see it on that application based cookies, how it will be working on that AWS level. So basically application based cookies means nothing but in case in our environment, if you are managing that our own cookies, we can configure that application based cookie, and the AWS ALB will be followed that the instruction based on the application based cookies configured on our own environment. So the cookie size we can configure up to 16K, and the cookies name should not be used that AWS ALB and the AWS ALB app and the AWS ALB TG. We can use it apart from this name. If you are using this name, it will not accept. So we will see it on the console how we can configure that application based cookies and load balancer based cookies, and we'll come to know more about the cookies and the application load balancer. So I'm switching into the console. So as I mentioned, the sticky session also we can configure on that load balancer target group level. I have one of the target. So inside the target, if you can click on the attribute, here you can see the one of the option called that sticky session. One sec, just click on the edit. Yeah, here you can see the stickiness. So stickiness, like basically as I mentioned, this will be help us to bind the user session to the specific target within a target group. It will work in that within the target group level. So if I am enabling the stickiness, there will be two options. As I mentioned, that load balancer generated cookies, application generated cookies. If you are enabling the load balancer generated cookies, that by default name AWS ALB will be taken, and only we can configure the duration between that 1 second to 7 days. In case if you are going to be enable that application based cookies, if you have any kind of cookies running on that configured on that our own application, this will be followed that instruction based on our application. So here we can configure that application cookie name and the duration we can configure. But as I mentioned, if you are configuring with that by default name providing by AWS, this will not taken. We need to be give the name apart from these three names, so that only it will accept that the cookies name. So that's all about the today's session for that routing algorithm and session affinity. So if you have any doubt on that those two parts, you can just leave a comment in this comment section. I'll just take you up in that upcoming session. So thanks for watching my channel once again. We'll see you in that upcoming session.